Is Hudson Place worth considering? That's the question buyers have been asking this week. The show flat is open. A lot of the answer sits in the land cost. In March 2025, the land was bid at 1037 per square foot per plot ratio. 12 months later, the plot down the road went for 1556. Same lead developers, 50% jump. Let's start with 3 reasons why you shouldn't buy Hudson Place and 3 reasons why you probably should. 3 reasons why you shouldn't buy. Concern 1. No MRT at your doorstep. 17 minutes on foot to One North MRT. Realistically, that's not a walk many people can tolerate.
At least not for me.
You get sweat-through shirt weather half a year and umbrella weather the other half. And the car park ratio is 41%. That's 134 lots across 327 units. For a project that's within 5 minutes walk to MRT, I think that's still okay. Most residents may not drive, but for a project that's 17 minutes away from the train station, I think that's something to consider. Arguably, we can also say that One North isn't an MRT town. It is a work town. 50,000 people work here. Many cycle, walk, or catch the 40 cents One North rider shuttle to work. LTA is also rolling out driverless shuttle service by this year to support connectivity within this area. I guess it would be fair to say that jobs create demand, transport supports it. And here is an important commute time consideration that most people missed. Take the most popular MRT adjacent launch cluster right now, the Lentor area. If you drive 12 minutes from Lentor Central, you are still in Bishan or Ang Mo Kio. But if you drive 12 minutes from Hudson Place, you are in Tanjong Pagar or Willow Orchard. For a buyer who doesn't depend on the train, the trade-off looks different. Now let's look at what off-MRT projects have done in this area. Whistler Grand at West Coast, profits up to 951k. And we have Normanton Park opposite One North, the profits up to 762k. And then Clairvon in Clementi up to 1.07 million in profit. All these are off-MRT projects. The work depends on who buys this from you next. CBD commuter probably needs the train. NUS faculty, NUH medical staff, or Grab engineer, or biopolice researcher probably don't. Their daily commute is a 5 minutes walk or a 6 minute cycle. Concern 2. Limited primary school options within 1 km. If you have kids and Primary 1 registration matters, this is a genuine consideration. Newtown Primary sits within 1 km, and beyond 1 km you have Queenstown Primary and Fairfield Methodist. Tanglin Trust is in the international school catchment. Singapore average household size today is 3.06. A good portion of buyers may not have a Primary 1 age child in the equation. For those who do, the school lease has to fit your family stage. Concern 3. The precinct feels state on weekend. And I agree with you. If you take a walk around the area on the weekend, it is truly very quiet. I would say it's a work in progress. When Bloomsbury TOP, there is a sheltered walkway to Bloomsbury shop next door. 400 square meter of retail there. Hudson Place itself also includes integrated retail on the ground floor. When combined, that's about 800 square meter of space between the two projects, accessible from day one when you move in. There is the One North Park, 16 hectares, already used on weekend. Star Vista is about 8 minutes drive. That's your weekly cold storage run. And Ghim Moh Market is about 9 minutes away. Rochester, Holland V, and IKEA Queensway is all within driving radius. By 2030, Mediapolis is set to add another 5,000 more fully private homes next door, each with ground floor retail. Your 2035 exit buyer isn't looking at a 2026 Sunday. They are looking at what 5,000 new homes and the AI park may have created. It comes down to confidence in the master plan timeline. And now 90 seconds on the project, the basics. Hudson Place is 327 units on a 99-year leasehold, 2 blocks, 1 23-story and 1 15 stories. The unit mix covers 2-bedder through to 4-bedder, including penthouse units at the top floor. The developer is Qingjian 4C Hobson Joint Venture, same consortium that built Bloomsbury next door. TOP expected around 2030 on the Circle Line with Buona Vista Interchange one stop further. The precinct runs 3 shuttle services on its own. Now I'll flash the official starting prices on the site here. The official starting price for developer for the 2-bedder 646 square feet starts from 1.4 mil, 3-bedder starts from 2.0 XX mil, 4-bedder premium from 2.7 mil. Realistically, I would say to look at 2,450 to 2,006 PSF range for the common unit type. This is a harmonized project, and I would say the price is really attractive for an RCR project, especially given how all the recent OCR launches have done. One product detail worth flagging before we get into more deep dive work would be the drop-off arrival has a 17-meter ground floor ceiling height. This kind of vertical scale is really lovely for a project at this price point. I would say the developer has certainly put in some effort to enhance the entrance experience. Quick pause. If you enjoy this kind of property deep dive, do consider hitting the subscribe button so the next one lands in your feed. Now on to 3 reasons why you probably should consider Hudson Place. Mapping to my clear framework, the letter E, A, and R. E for entry price support, A for appeal, and R for resale exit. C, comparable, and L, location and livability are threaded through the concerns above. Now on to reason 1, the 50% land gap. Hudson Place land was secured at 1037 PSF PPR in March 2025. 12 months later, Qingjian and Forsey came back for Dover Drive just 5 minutes down the road, and they paid 1556 PSF PPR. That's a $519 gap per square foot from the same lead developers inside the same year. This 50% jump is steep. London to Bukit Timah Newton went up 29%, Lentor Garden to Lentor Central 39%, Hudson to Dover 50%. For more context, Bloomsbury next door bid at 1191 earlier, Hudson came in 13% lower. In other words, Hudson sits at the lowest land cost in this stretch of recent launches. I keep a tracker of recent Singapore launches. In the RCR segment, the average developer markup from break-even is about 31 to 32%. Hudson estimated break-even sits at 2052 per square foot. If you apply the average 31% markup, you get an estimated average launch of around 2688. Developers has released the official starting price. Starting prices from around 2002 PSF. But it's also important to note that starting prices are the floor, not the average. The realistic average across all units, I would think, sits closer to 2005 to 2006 PSF. And that's not a coincidence. Bloomsbury next door, same developer, sold at average of 2517 PSF, and Bloomsbury and Hudson being side by side, the same developer will naturally protect the price in the area and won't price Hudson below the project that's next door. For you, that floor also works in your favor. You're entering at a level that the same developer has already proven the market accepts. Now against other off-MRT RCR launches, Bloomsbury opened at 1.72 mil for 2-bedroom, Penrith at Queenstown 1.82 mil, the Pine Grove pair, Nava Grove and Pine Tree Hill, both off-MRT in District 21, hit 1.95 to 2.05 mil for the same product profile. Hudson Place starts at 1.4 mil across the off-MRT RCR set. That's 320 to 650,000 price gap. Now let's compare resale in the same precinct. Normanton Park 2-bedder resale around 1.4 to 1.5 mil. One North Eden 2-bedder resale 1.65 to 1.85 mil depending on the stack. And we have Interlace 2-bedder 1.69 million for older but bigger layout. Hudson Place at 1.4 mil starting puts you at Normanton resale quantum. Same money, brand new with a 2030 TOP timeline. Now going back to the average RCR markup from break-even price, you get an average estimated launch price of 2,688 PSF. Looking at the starting price guide, you can potentially get unit lower than this projected 2,688 PSF. You don't often see margin this tight on an RCR launch. The developer is running a tighter margin than RCR average. For you as an early buyer, that means your entry sits closer to build cost than to market peak. less margin for the developer, more headroom for you on exit. And what does all this mean to you? If you apply the same methodology to Dover Drive, a caveat first, Dover isn't a carbon copy of Hudson. I understand this. It is a different plot, different end product, and different timing, but it is still the closest benchmark that we can reference against. Dover likely launches between 2009 and 2004 per square foot, depending on the market condition when they release. If you take the midpoint of Hudson Place launch and the midpoint of Dover Drive launch, multiply the gap price by the same unit size, the price difference works out to be about 400k for 2-bedder, and for a 3-bedroom, that's about 5 to 600,000 price difference. Of course, this is my own working estimate, not the developer figure, so don't quote me, but I think this is a good working reference for us to compare if, let's say, if you choose to wait further, like another year later, what is the potential price difference you would be paying? Now, reason 2. Bloomsbury already did it. Bloomsbury is the project right next door to Hudson Place, launched in April 2025, the same month US tariff went live. Day 1 sold 25%. On its own, that read as slow. So I pulled Bloomsbury transaction to see what the next 12 months look like. 80% sold in under a year. For the 2-bedroom specifically, only 15 units are left out of 190 units. The preview weekend alone on the 11th and 12th of April 2025, they did over 150 transactions in 2 days. And the average transacted PSF was 2516, and the highest single transaction hit 2716 for top floor 2-bedder with study on the better facing. Now, if we were to look at other launches nearby, Linden Woods hit 99% sold, Blossoms by the Park also 99%, and there's one more direct exit precedent. One North Eden, the project that TOP in 2024 just down the road, has 33 profitable resale transactions over the last 5 years. The top 4-bedroom profit hit 741k, top 3-bedroom 649k profit. So the average 4-bedroom profit is about 628k, holding period of between 3 to 5 years. That's what early entry into this precinct has historically delivered. Past performance is no guarantee, of course, but I would think that it is quite a good data point for us to reference against when we are doing analysis on the area. If you find this breakdown useful so far, do consider subscribing so the next real estate analysis lands in your feed. Reason 3. Supply and demand. Total residential stock in the Greater One North cluster, including everything that's upcoming, is 4,243 units. Current workforce sits at 50,000. That works out to be one home for every 12 professionals in the precinct, and the denominator keeps growing. 9 more business park plots sit in the pipeline. Kampong AI is set for 2028 readiness, expected to bring 70 more companies into the precinct 2 years before Hudson Place TOPs. Now let's look at the rental side. I put the last 12 months of rental transactions across the precinct, April 2025 to March 2026. One North Eden averages $7.29 per square foot on a 2-bedder. That's about $5,245 rental a month. And Normanton Park 1 year older averages $6.08 per square foot on the 2-bedder. This project logged 756 rental transactions over a 12 months window period. An honest caveat before we project Hudson, Eden sits about 5 minutes from One North MRT. Hudson is 17 minutes from the MRT. The MRT proximity is part of the reason why Eden commands $7.29 PSF. So we'll expect Hudson to land between Normanton and Eden price. A relatively fair amount, I would think, is around $6.50 to $6.80 PSF. On a 646 square feet 2-bedder, that's roughly $4,200 to $4,400 a month rental. Gross yield around 3.6 to 3.8% on a 1.4 million entry price. On a 3-bedroom at 893 square feet, if you apply the same midpoint, around $5,400 to $5,600 rental a month. The yield is around 3.3 to 3.4% on a 2 mil entry. I would say the 2-bedroom is the yield play and the 3-bedroom is the own stay play with rental as a backup. One more thing, and this is pure speculation. There is a plot directly beside Hudson Place with a 0.8 plot ratio. It hasn't moved between the 2019 and 2025 URA master plan. On March 2025, LTA announced feasibility studies for a new MRT line tentatively called the Tengah line. It will serve Queensway among the other area, and Queensway sits adjacent to One North. Could this become a station one day? Too early to tell, but we are certainly watching it. Because if the MRT station becomes an official news, we definitely will not be looking at this kind of price point. So who is Hudson Place for? The buyer data from Bloomsbury next door and Lindenwood one stop away tells us that roughly 2/3 of the buyers in this precinct comes from existing private addresses. The other 1/3 comes from HDB upgraders, and almost 90% are Singaporean. In summary, I would say if you work in or near One North, this deserves a serious look. Walking distance to your office is a mega plus point. And if rental yield is your priority, the 2-bedder at 1.4 mil starting price is where the math works hardest. And if you are upgrading from Queenstown, Bukit Merah or Ghim Moh MRT, the math backs you up. 270 4-room flats traded in Queenstown last year, averaged 988k, and a 5-room average 1.22 mil. That's 300 to 500,000 cash plus CPF for your next move. Hudson 2-bedroom at 1.4 mil is a realistic stretch. The 3-bedder at 2 mil starting price sits comfortably for a 5-room HDB upgrader. And if you are own stay buyer looking for a 4-bedroom unit, the 4-bedroom unit at 2.7 mil is really a very attractive price for an RCR project. Or if you grew up in the West, you are used to AYE, NUS, Clementi. Hudson Place is the same side of the island you are already familiar with, just a district closer to the city. And now, who is Hudson Place not for? I would say probably not for you if you need the train at your doorstep daily right now, and you also enjoy weekend bustle in where you live, or if your child needs strict 1 km P1 registration soon, or freehold tenure is a non-negotiable for your legacy planning. Whether Hudson Place fits depends on your situation, your timeline, and your existing portfolio. If this is the kind of breakdown you want before making a property decision, hit subscribe so the next one lands in your feed. And if Hudson Place isn't quite the right fit, but you're planning or considering your next property move, feel free to drop me a message. I'll share what else is worth looking at based on your goals and timeline. I'm Vicky. See you next time.